Have you ever wondered why so many A students end up working for C students?
All the time.
Right. Or why highly educated, like incredibly hardworking professionals often struggle with just a mountain of debt, while other people seem to build wealth effortlessly.
Yeah, it's almost like they're playing an entirely different game.
Exactly.
It's a really fascinating paradox, honestly. I mean, you look around and see brilliant, capable people doing everything they were, traditionally taught to do.
Go to school, get good grades.
Right. Get good grades, get a safe job, save a portion of your paycheck. But they are still constantly stressed about making ends meet. The conventional formula just doesn't seem to produce the promised result for them.
No, it really doesn't. And to figure out why that happens, today's deep dive takes us into a deeply personal source text. It's basically a tale of two fathers.
Right. The whole foundation of the book.
Yeah, it's a foundational narrative that contrasts two incredibly strong, influential father figures. So on one side, you have a dad who was highly educated. I mean, attended Stanford, Northwestern, earned his PhD.
The classic picture of success.
Right, but he ultimately died, leaving unpaid bills. And then on the other side, there's the second dad. He never even finished the eighth grade, actually.
Which is wild.
But he went on to become one of the wealthiest men in Hawaii.
And that perfectly sets up the tension of this entire discussion, I think. You have these two patriarchs offering completely contradictory advice on how to navigate life, risk, and, well, money.
Yeah, they were polar opposites.
Exactly. It forces you, as the reader, to actually question the default script we are all handed from childhood.
Totally. So our mission for this deep dive is to extract the core philosophy from that rich dad perspective. We want to separate the conventional wisdom most of us grew up with from true financial intelligence.
I love that.
Okay, let's unpack this. Before we can even talk about building wealth, we have to look at the trap that keeps most people broke.
Mental trap, yeah.
Right. The fundamental premise here is that the rich don't actually work for money.
Which sounds so counterintuitive at first.
It does. The poor and the middle class work for money, but the rich have money work for them.
Right. And to illustrate that, the author shares a very vivid story from when he was just 9 years old. He asked the rich dad to teach him how to make money.
Oh, I love this story.
It's great. So the rich dad agrees, but his method is, it's pretty unconventional. He puts the kid to work dusting canned goods in a convenience store for 10 cents an hour.
10 cents an hour.
Mhm.
I mean, that is practically an insult, even in the 1950s.
Oh, totally.
Naturally, the kid felt exploited, right?
Right.
So he works for a few weeks, gets totally fed up, and goes in to demand a raise or quit.
Like any normal person would.
Right. But instead of negotiating, the rich dad tells him he's sounding exactly like most of his adult employees. And then he does something radical.
He takes the pay away entirely.
Exactly. He forces the 9-year-old to work for free.
It sounds incredibly harsh on the surface. I mean, almost abusive. But we have to look at the underlying mechanism the rich dad was trying to expose there.
He was trying to prove a point.
He was trying to force a paradigm shift. If you work for a paycheck, your entire life becomes dictated by two primary emotions, which are fear and greed.
Fear and greed.
Right? First, it's the fear of not having enough money, that visceral, panic-inducing fear of not being able to pay your rent or, buy groceries.
Oh, yeah. Everyone knows that feeling.
That fear is what forces you out of bed and into a job you might actually hate.
And then once you got that paycheck and the fear subsides for a minute, the second emotion kicks in.
Greed.
Right, greed or desire. You start thinking about the reward, the new car, the bigger house, the vacation you feel you've earned.
Precisely. You increase your lifestyle expenses to match your new income.
Whoa.
But doing that means you suddenly need more money to maintain that lifestyle.
Which reignites the fear.
Exactly. It creates a continuous, unbreakable loop. You wake up, go to work, pay bills, wake up, go to work, pay bills.
The rat race.
That is the psychological engine of what the source material famously calls the rat race.
Mm-hmm.
The rich dad took away that 10 cents an hour because he wanted to break the boy's addiction to the paycheck.
He wanted him to stop reacting to the fear and start observing it.
Exactly.
The source uses this incredible analogy of a donkey pulling a cart, right? Like constantly chasing a carrot dangling from a stick held by the driver.
The illusion of the carrot.
Yeah. The donkey is just moving forward because of this illusion, never realizing where the cart is actually going. But if that fear of not having enough money never really goes away, does getting a raise just mean the donkey gets a more expensive carrot?
What's fascinating here is that the text explicitly states that even rich people fall into this exact same emotional trap.
Really? even the wealthy.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Amassing a giant pile of money does not magically cure the fear. For many high earners, it actually amplifies it.
Oh, I guess because they have more to lose.
Right. They just become terrified of losing the money or losing the social status that the money buys. They become a highly paid slave to the fear.
Wow.
The foundational takeaway isn't about ignoring your emotions. I mean, we are human. We feel fear. The key is to use your emotions to think, not to think with your emotions.
Okay, that makes sense.
When the fear hits, instead of letting it dictate a knee-jerk reaction like running out to get a second job or begging for overtime, you step back and analyze the board.
You pause.
Right. You ask yourself, is working harder at this job the best long-term solution to this fear?
So if working harder just makes the donkey's carrot more expensive, how do you actually get off the treadmill?
Well, you need a totally new vocabulary.
Yeah, you can't just hustle your way out of it. You have to know what you are actually supposed to be acquiring.
Exactly.
The main argument here is that financial literacy isn't about how much money you make, it's about how much money you keep.
This is where the rich dad introduces what he calls the KISS principle.
Keep it super simple. Keep it super simple. Because if you want to build wealth, the single most important rule, the absolute bedrock of everything else we're going to discuss, is knowing the difference between an asset and a liability.
And we aren't talking about the dictionary definition here.
No, definitely not.
Or the complex accounting definition that allows a corporation to list, like a depreciating company car as an asset.
Right. Accountants will call a car an asset, but the rich dad says no.
The text defines these terms strictly by the flow of cash.
Cash flow is king.
An asset puts money in your pocket whether you work or not. A liability takes money out of your pocket.
It is so beautifully simple.
The rich buy assets, the poor only have expenses, and the middle class.
The middle class buy liabilities that they mistakenly believe are assets.
That cash flow distinction completely changes how you view everything you own.
It really does. Because if you lose your job today, an asset will continue to feed you. It generates revenue.
But a liability, however, will eat you.
Yes, it demands continuous feeding. Here's where it gets really interesting, because the source tackles a deeply ingrained cultural belief.
Oh, I know exactly what you're going to say.
The author states, point blank, that your house, your primary residence, is a liability, not an asset.
And people get incredibly defensive when they hear this.
So defensive.
Yeah.
But if we look at the cash flow definition, the mechanics are undeniable.
Every single month, the house takes money out of your pocket.
The mortgage payment, the property taxes, the insurance, the landscaping, the leaky roof you inevitably have to fix.
It's constant outward cash flow.
If you try to build an Empire State Building on a 6-inch concrete slab, it's going to topple.
Oh, absolutely.
Financial literacy is pouring the deep foundation. You cannot build generational wealth on a foundation of liabilities dressed up as assets.
That is a brilliant way to visualize it. When you look at the financial statements outlined in the text, you begin to see why giving more money to a financially illiterate person rarely solves their problems.
It usually just makes things worse, right?
It usually accelerates them into bankruptcy. If your foundational habit is spending every dollar you make, or using extra income to finance larger liabilities.
Like taking out a massive loan for a luxury SUV just because you got a promotion.
Exactly. That a higher income just means higher expenses and deeper debt. Reading the numbers tells a story.
The numbers don't lie.
They don't.
Yeah.
The cash flow tells the story of how a person fundamentally handles money.
Knowing what an actual asset is leads to a major realization, which is that your day job isn't your business.
This is a huge concept.
There is a phenomenal story in the text about Ray Kroc, the visionary behind McDonald's, that illustrates this perfectly.
Yes, so Kroc is speaking to an MBA class at the University of Texas. And he asks the students a seemingly simple question. He says, "What business am I in?"
And the students all laugh, assuming it's a joke. They tell him he's obviously in the hamburger business.
But Kroc corrects them. He says his business is not hamburgers. His business is real estate.
That is just wild to think about. It completely shifts the perspective of what McDonald's actually is.
Kroc understood that the franchise selling the hamburgers was really just the engine. It was the engine to acquire the prime real estate beneath the restaurants.
He didn't just sell burgers. He bought the land at busy intersections.
Exactly. The franchisees paid lease agreements to the corporation, effectively paying off the land for him.
No.
He built a real estate empire using hamburgers as the funding mechanism.
Which highlights the critical difference between your profession and your business.
Yes, huge
Your
distinctions.
profession, like being an engineer, a chef, a teacher, or even a franchise owner, that's what pays the bills and funds your life.
Right.
But your business is your asset column. Minding your own business means utilizing your income to buy real estate, stocks, bonds, intellectual property, basically things that generate income without your physical presence.
But, and this is a big but, once you start acquiring those assets and building that column, you immediately run into the single biggest drain on your wealth:
Taxes.
taxes. And this is where the wealthy play an entirely different game by utilizing the power of corporations.
Okay, before we dive into the mechanics of that, I need to pause and make something explicitly clear to you listening.
Good idea.
The source material takes a very specific, politically charged stance on the history of taxes. The author actually describes the concept of Robin Hood as a crook and argues that the current tax system ultimately punishes the producers in society to reward the non-producers.
That's a very strong viewpoint.
It is, and we are impartially reporting the viewpoints of the original source material here. We are not endorsing this perspective or taking any political sides. We are simply conveying the ideas exactly as they are presented in the text so we can understand the rich dad's underlying philosophy.
Which is a controversial framing, obviously, but it's necessary to mention because it explains the rich dad's motivation.
Exactly.
To understand the financial mechanics the text is describing, we have to look at how the rich dad views the legal structure of a corporation.
Right, because it's not what most people think it is.
No, it's not a big glass building with executives.
Yeah.
He explains that the wealthy effectively outsmarted the tax system because they understand corporate law. A corporation is essentially a legal wrapper.
A wrapper.
Yeah, a wrapper that protects wealth and dictates the sequence of how money is taxed.
Let's break down that sequence because it's fundamentally different from how an employee operates.
Night and day difference.
As an employee, you earn money, the government taxes you immediately through payroll deductions, and then you try to live on whatever is left over.
Right. You get the leftovers.
But a corporation operates in reverse. A
Mhm.
corporation earns money, it spends everything it legally can on expenses, and it is only taxed on the net income that is left over.
Think about it practically. Let's say you need a laptop, a vehicle, and a mobile phone to operate a side business.
Okay.
As an employee, you get taxed on your paycheck first. You might earn $5,000, get taxed, and have to buy that laptop and phone with the $3,000 you have left.
It's much harder to afford.
Exactly. But a corporation buys the laptop, the car, and the phone with the pre-tax $5,000.
Because those are considered business expenses.
Right. The corporation is only taxed on the profit remaining after those expenses are paid. The sequence of who gets paid first, you or the government, changes everything about how quickly you can accumulate assets.
Wait, so is a corporation just a fancy tax dodge, or is it fundamentally about who holds the power in the financial system?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is entirely about power and control.
Power.
Yeah. If you work for money, meaning your sole source of income is a paycheck from an employer, you give power to your employer and, by extension, to the government via automatic tax withholding.
You are basically a passenger in the financial vehicle.
Perfect analogy. But if money works for you, through your own corporate structures and income-generating assets, you keep the power. You control the cash flow, you control the deductions, and you dictate the terms.
It's about not being pushed around by external economic forces.
Because you actually understand the legal and financial rules of the game.
So you have the legal structures and you know the definitions. But how do you actually generate the initial wealth to funnel into those corporate structures?
Oh, this requires a profound shift in how you view reality itself.
Yes. The text argues that the rich invent money because money is not actually real.
That requires a massive leap of faith for most people to accept. I mean, we hold a dollar bill and it feels very real.
But the argument is that money is simply an agreement. It is an illusion held together by confidence.
Right. And to illustrate this, the author shares a hilarious story from when he and his friend Mike were 9 years old.
Oh, the toothpaste tubes.
Yes. They took the rich dad's advice to make money, quite literally. They went around their neighborhood collecting used lead toothpaste tubes.
Back when toothpaste tubes were actually made of lead.
Exactly. They melted the lead down on a barbecue grill, poured it into plaster molds, and literally started casting counterfeit nickels.
It's a fantastic visual of childhood ingenuity.
It really is. The rich dad catches them naturally and has to explain the legal concept of counterfeiting.
Right, you can't just forge government currency.
No, you cannot. But crucially, he doesn't scold them for the attempt. He actually praises their creative initiative. He tells them they were remarkably close to thinking the way the rich think.
Because if you look at modern finance, from fiat currency to fractional reserve banking, money isn't tied to physical gold in a vault anymore.
He hasn't been for a long time.
It is an agreement. The underlying principle the rich dad was teaching is that the single most powerful asset you have is your mind.
Your mind is the ultimate asset.
Financial intelligence isn't just about saving pennies in a jar. It's a synergy of four distinct skills.
Let's run through those. First is accounting.
Right. Being able to read the numbers and understand the cash flow.
Second, investing, which is the actual science of money making money.
Third, understanding markets, the fundamental laws of supply and demand.
And fourth, the law, using the corporate structures and tax advantages we just discussed.
When you combine those four pillars, you can literally invent money.
It's true. You can spot a distressed property, an undervalued stock, or a totally unserved market need that the rest of the crowd walks right past.
But spotting those opportunities requires a completely different kind of education than what we receive in school.
Oh, vastly different. Which brings up a huge point of friction between the two father figures in the text.
The concept of working to learn versus working for money.
Exactly.
The highly educated dad valued job security and specialization.
Like most academics.
Right. He believed that to be successful, you needed to learn more and more about less and less. You climb the ladder by becoming a highly specialized, irreplaceable expert in one specific niche.
But the rich dad completely rejected that idea. He valued knowing a little about a lot.
Why is that?
Well, his reasoning is that if you are highly specialized, your earning power is entirely dependent on whoever needs that specific specialty.
You become vulnerable.
Exactly. You are extremely vulnerable to industry shifts or corporate downsizing. Instead of specializing, the rich dad encouraged the author to move constantly between different departments in his companies.
You wanted him to spend time in accounting, then move to sales, then marketing, then operations?
He even encouraged him to join the Marine Corps for the sole purpose of learning how to lead troops under pressure.
Wow.
Yeah. As the rich dad pointed out, the hardest part of running any successful business is managing people.
If you aren't a good leader in business, you get shot in the back by your own inefficiencies.
That's a great way to put it. He heavily prioritized learning communication skills, particularly sales and marketing. He noted that the fear of rejection is the single biggest psychological obstacle preventing people from achieving wealth.
It also fundamentally changes how you handle failure, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The text highlights what it calls the Texas attitude toward risk.
I love this part. Texans, the author notes, do everything big.
Go big or go home.
When they win big. But when they lose, the loss is spectacular. And yet, they are proud of both.
They embrace the failure as a necessary step.
The Alamo is a perfect historical example of this. It was a devastating military defeat.
A total wipeout.
But instead of burying that failure, they turned it into a rallying cry, an inspiration, and today, a massive tourist destination that generates millions of dollars.
They literally monetized their greatest defeat.
If you're going to go broke, go big. I love that framing. Winners analyze where cynics criticize. So what does this all mean? To me, the educated dad's path of specialization is like striving to be the most highly tuned, perfect little cog in a massive machine. You do your one specific job brilliantly, but you are still just a cog.
Right. And the rich dad doesn't want you to be the cog.
He wants you to be the mechanic who understands how the entire machine fits together, how the engine operates, and ultimately how to own the machine yourself.
This raises an important question for you listening to consider about your own trajectory. Look at your career path right now. Are you choosing your jobs and your roles based on fear, the need for a secure, steady paycheck to cover the liabilities you've accumulated?
Or are you choosing your roles based on what you actively need to learn next to build your own asset column?
Are you merely working to earn, or are you strategically working to learn?
That is the ultimate gut check. So to bring this all together and summarize this massive paradigm shift, we are talking about transitioning from a life driven by the emotional trap of fear and greed, endlessly chasing a safe paycheck in the rat race.
To a life driven by financial intelligence.
Yes. It's about knowing the strict cash flow difference between an asset and a liability.
It's about minding your own business by building an asset column, protecting that wealth with legal corporate structures.
And training your mind to invent money by seeing the opportunities the crowd completely misses.
Achieving that requires a profound shift in daily habits. It is a stark reminder that it is your daily choices, what you choose to do with your time and what you choose to do with every single dollar that passes through your hands, that ultimately dictate your financial destiny.
You choose daily to be rich, poor, or middle class by what you put in your head and what you put in your asset column.
Couldn't agree more.
And that leads me to a final thought I want to leave you with, something to mull over long after this deep dive ends. We talked about the radical idea that money is truly just an agreement, an illusion held together by collective confidence, and that your mind is your greatest actual asset.
Right.
Think about the boundaries you place on your own potential. What fake limits are holding you back right now simply because you've accepted the conventional rules of the game?
Mhm.
If you lost everything you own today, your job, your savings, your car, your house, would the financial education currently in your head be enough to build it all back from scratch? Remember, we started by asking why the A student ends up working for the C student.
And we found out why.
It turns out the A student spent their entire life studying the rules of the machine, while the C student studied how to own it.